Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 99 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish has gained a lot of news and media coverage in the past couple of years, and there's a lot of misconceptions about this fish. Well, here we are to kind of negate some of those and just to teach y'all about this fish. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is the northern snakehead. So the northern snakehead, or scientific name Canna argus. Again, that is Canna argus, maybe Kana. Channa, it shouldn't be Channa because you can't have that sound, but Kana, maybe, I'm thinking. It is part of the family Canidae, which is the family of snakeheads. Who would have guessed? Yeah, so I'm sure you've seen these in the news. You've probably heard of these, and you might even know where they're from. But just to reiterate, these are native fish to Asia. And we have here a little range map made by the USGS, United States Geological Survey, that shows that these, the northern snakeheads, were native to Eastern Asia. So China, Russia, and the Koreas. That's where they're native. Now, we also have this introduced range in Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Japan, things like that. They have been introduced throughout these areas and throughout the world. This is why it's gained those news coverages, because of how invasive this species can get. But we'll get into that in a little bit. In terms of their habitat, they really prefer shallow, stagnant ponds that are like less than 2 meters in depth, which is about 6 feet in depth. They really like those ponds or swamps, these mud substrates, vegetation, slow muddy streams. I mean, they really seem to prefer that slow, stagnant water. However, they can occur in canals, reservoirs, lakes, rivers. They can kind of live wherever they want, except for saltwater. They are so adapted to their freshwater environment that they are unable to tolerate salinity over 10 parts per million, which it was hard for me to find anything as a comparison, but anything less than 1,000 milligrams per liter of salinity is considered freshwater. So that means that it can only live and that's if that 10 parts per million. I also saw some 20 parts per million. Regardless, however you want to put that, you're talking about they can only live in a certain amount of freshwaters. So it's pretty specific for how widespread they are. That was something that really surprised me. I thought they would be able to tolerate a wide range of salinities and be extremely adapted to environments, but apparently not. Something that does help them, though, living in those stagnant, shallow ponds. We've talked about this. Many fish that live in those ponds or swamps like that, and just like those fish, the northern snakehead is an obligate air breather as well. That's how they're capable of survival in these poorly oxygenated waters. So just like the alligator gar that we talked about, just like some of the other fish we've talked about, for some reason I'm just completely blanking this morning. They are an obligate air breather, meaning they have to breathe air. Not that they can, but they actually have to. In terms of size, they are a medium-sized fish. You can see here, here's a fisherman that has caught one. We can zoom in a little bit here. And there is a heavy angling effort for these, by the way. They are medium-sized fish. Think about 100 centimeters, which is about 3 foot 3 inches, or 1 meter. I don't know why I have 100 centimeters. But there are some Russian scientists that have specimens that have reached 150 centimeters, which is 4 feet 11 inches. That would be an incredible specimen to see. These fish are not known to get that big. In terms of weight, they're pretty hefty. These are basically balls of muscle. maybe tubes of muscle would be a better way to put it. But the IGFA, the International Game Fish Association, has a rod and reel record of 17 pounds 12 ounces, which is 8.05 kilograms. And the IGFA archery record is 19.9 pounds, so just under 20 pounds, 9.03 kilograms. So that's actually a really hefty fish for 3 feet, and it's basically solid muscle. These things are pretty darn good. Muscular, I should say. As you can tell from the body shape, they do have this cylindrical body shape. As you can tell from the photograph, they have that cylindrical body shaped with this really thick head right there, but it's a little flat. Pretty flat actually, as compared to some of these other cylindrical fish like this. It's kind of like got a really thick but flattened head. They do have these nostrils. Maybe you can see it. That's a little zoomed in. You can see it here. They have these little tubular nostrils. That's pretty prevalent in species of swamps. And they have this incredibly large mouth, as you'd expect from this large head. And as you can see from this picture, they actually have really intense teeth on the lower jaw. They're pretty good about biting. So probably shouldn't stick your hand in this thing, but they're pretty voracious and they've got some decent teeth to them for sure. Definitely for sure. Oh, sorry, I kind of lost my place there. And then, as you can also tell from the picture, they have this elongated dorsal fin and anal fin, which that's the dorsal fin is very similar to the bowfin. And I know we've talked about the bowfin, and they are very similar to bowfin, and they constantly get misidentified as bowfin. So I have here a picture of a bowfin, and you can see, if you just see these and you have no real knowledge of fish, you can get these confused. They're misidentified. Well, luckily there was someone, the USGS, United States Geological Survey, has this little pictograph that shows how the best way to tell them apart. You have the pectoral fin, which is set higher, and the pelvic fin is set directly below. The bowfin, the pelvic fin is set farther back. It has a short anal fin, whereas snakeheads have this elongated anal fin. You have this thicker head. Really important for me, which is a dead giveaway that you could probably tell even in most waters, if you can see it, is their color pattern. The snakehead has this tannish golden color, and these dark blotches that just kind of like sit like saddles, almost like a diamondback rattlesnake, in my opinion. But they do not have this caudal peduncle spot, this little eye spot that's on the tail. That's really, I've never seen a specimen of bowfin that you cannot see this spot right there. It is so dark, even on melanistic specimens, which are the really dark specimens. That eye spot actually sticks out pretty prevalently. Also, bowfin do have a thicker head, or more rounded head. In the snakehead, you can kind of see that the snakehead really has that. This is gonna sound so, gosh, how do I put this? It sounds kind of like a no duh moment, but it has a head like a snake. I mean, let's be honest, it kind of does. Anyway, so now for the interesting fact that we're gonna end the video on, which is kind of a collaboration of facts. And it's about how invasive this species is, and they are incredibly invasive, highly invasive. They were brought over, and they were brought across the world actually, for kind of a combination of both aquarium trades and for the food trade. This is an incredibly popular food fish in the Eastern Asian countries, and when they spread out throughout the world, they would bring their native foods, and it was very easy to keep these alive because of how well these fish can survive. So you have this fish that's very easy to stay alive. It can breathe air, so that's one thing. Number two is how their reproduction is. Northern snakehead can double their populations in as few as 15 months. The females build this floating nest. I think it's primarily in a circle that they have clipped aquatic plants, and then they build this nest of plants, and then they just throw their eggs in there and just keep those eggs on top of those plants. So those plants are actually protecting the eggs. And he's like, okay, many fish have nests, and well, the female can lay up to 100,000 a year. So that's, good. That's pretty good. However, usually when you have that many young, this is where the snakehead differs. First off, the eggs hatch in about 1 to 2 days, and then the eggs are guarded by their parents until their yolk is fully absorbed from the eggs. That is not common on a fish that has that many young. That is really interesting. Something I definitely did not know, by the way. They're actually respected among Chinese fishermen because they have been known to sacrifice themselves to protect their young. So like if there's a predator nearby, they will literally give up their own bodies so their young will survive. So when you have this fish that's reproducing a lot and it will do anything in its power to protect those young, and then those young fish can actually survive pretty well, as relatively quickly. You're talking about definitely a conglomeration of just little aspects on this fish's biology and life history that allow it to be incredibly invasive. And you add all of those things about the reproduction on top of the fact that most in northern snakehead can survive up to 4 days out of the water. Up to 4 days. And then finally, something that this is known about this is that these fish can migrate. They can move across land to a nearby pond. If it's humid enough, things like that, if recent rain, they can actually traverse the landscape to occupy a different water body. Now, there is a misconception in that people think that it's the adults doing this. It's only possible for the juveniles. That was done by a study that was discovered by a study in 2004. The adult snakeheads have a much more rounded body than the juveniles, and so they can't do this. And and that's not to say the other snakehead can't, but this particular species has a much more rounded body that doesn't really let them migrate as well across land as some of the other snakehead species, which are a little bit more horizontally flattened. So that's still a pretty good fact that these fish can survive. Now, they are so invasive that there's numerous programs out there that are going to combat these. There's bounties. I believe in the state of Florida, there's actually a couple of people that have jobs that their job is actually to go catch as many snakehead every day as possible. Sounds like a pretty damn good job, not gonna lie. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. I hope to see you again next week. Fish Friday number 100, and I think I have one of the most important fish in the world to talk about. Hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Again, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and peace.